This is a quick introductory video showing how to use my math concept questions to improve your math ACT score. Math concept questions are not traditional ACT math problems, but are questions designed to see if you know the fundamental math concepts that ACT is testing for. When you start my Advanced Math Solutions deck, you'll see a folder 1 called Math Concept Questions. Folder 2 is the student review folder where we actually work test problems. It's important to understand that the better you understand the math concepts, the faster you'll be able to answer the math problems or work the math problems. When we click the plus sign beside the folder, each folder will expand. The math concepts are grouped into 4 subfolders, and each of these can be expanded. Let's expand folder 4 and select the trig formulas and trig graphs deck. We will then select the study now to start the questions. Okay, as we look at this first problem, the red square will be covering up the answer, the variable that we're after. To see the answer, what we'll do is we'll hit the space bar on our keyboard and the red square will disappear, okay? Then we'll have to judge how good do we know this problem. We can hit again, good, or easy. As soon as we do that, it takes us to the next problem. As we go through the problems, what we'll see is that over and over we'll be asked to come up with an answer. We'll hit space bar, it'll display the correct answer, and we'll judge our evaluation of how good do we know the content. Okay, so let me give you about 15 or 20 math concept questions here, and just as an example, and you can see how this process works. The software will ask you or re-ask you several questions just to repeat it 2 or 3 times to get it in your memory good, seat it good in your memory. And as you go through, you just get faster and faster. Okay, here are some of the benefits of the math concept review. Okay, first thing is the math concepts are quick and painless. You don't have to have a book, a paper, pencil, calculator. You don't have to have any of that in front of you to do math concept questions. The second thing is daily practice. If you will sit down and do your math concept reviews every day, be shocked at 2 benefits. First is your recall speed is dramatically improved. Second thing is you're going to find out what you don't know, okay, from the standpoint of building up your math knowledge. If you've got some gaps there that, hey, I don't know what the amplitude is or I don't know what the period is, you'll instantly see that very quickly. Now, the fourth item is that every problem has a correct answer. So if you hadn't even had trig before, if you go through these math concepts, you'll find out, hey, that is the amplitude on the graph, or this is the period, or what is the formula for the period. Okay, so you can mentally cue yourself up to memorize that detailed information. As we go through the cards, another thing that we want to look at is the actual vocabulary. Anytime we see a vocabulary term used, we want to make sure that we make a flashcard for it so that there's no mystery how that's applied or exactly what it means. If we're 100% up on our vocabulary, then that will exponentially increase our score just because ACT, that's what they want to test on, to see if we know our vocabulary and also if we know our formulas. So as we go through, we'll want to look at and notice the distinction between, like, say, an equilateral triangle versus isosceles. If you notice in these cards, also what I'll try to do is add an image just to make sure, to give you a visual cue, to make sure that you're absolutely, up to speed on exactly what we're talking about. It helps you remember it better also. So we'll look at acute angles, obtuse angles, a straight angle. Anything that we run across in text, we'll try to make sure that we make a distinction on exactly what it is. If 2 shapes are congruent or if 2 shapes are similar, what does that mean? So we'll try to drive out all the distinctions and make sure that we've got everything, nailed down completely when we're looking at the different terms and the terminology. When we're looking at our math concepts or our vocabulary terms, what we always want to do is see if we can ask ourselves the question of how could they use this on a test problem, just to make sure that we know how it's applied. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just stop and ask myself, how can they use this, or how has this been used before on test problems, just to check and make sure that I see not just a straightforward way, but an indirect way they could ask a question. Because ACT, a lot of times they're testing the math concepts, and they're just trying to find out strange, unique ways to ask that question just to throw us off. So the more test problems you do, the sharper you are at your math concepts, the better you're going to be taking the test problems, the faster you're going to be seeing how they're used and working similar problems. Okay, now I'd like to talk about some tips and tricks that I use when reviewing, say, math concepts or any kind of flashcards. Okay, the first one is when I'm reviewing, typically I like to use a pencil and a piece of paper in front of me. That way, as I come across new terms, I'll write them down, make a note of it. A lot of times in looking at med school students, how they use Anki, what they'll call it is an active capture tool. As they're reviewing information, they'll have Anki pulled up and they'll make extra new cards as they learn information. So that's one thing that I do a lot of, and I think that's helped a lot. The second thing is, as you're reviewing the cards, you can edit a card just by hitting the keyboard shortcut E, and that will open up the card and let you add your own content. And a lot of times I'll add details, or I'll make a card better. Either I'll add text, or I'll add a better picture, or one of the neatest things is to edit the picture that's already there. And what I use is MS Paint, and all I have to do is hit the image, right click, edit image, pulls it up in Paint, I modify it, hit save, and then it's all done. So it's really an automated system, and so I can add my notes as I want to, or modify all the card notes as every time, or as I go through them, there's something I see different. I just want to add better content. So it's just a process of getting the cards better and better and better. Another thing that is not really about the modifying the cards, but something that one med school student said this last week in review was that he looks at every card as really a commitment to learn a particular fact. So if you have 50 math concept questions and you've mastered those 50, that's really, substantial. And so don't ignore if you have a particular flashcard, say it's the formula for hyperbole. That's going to take you a little bit of time to learn, but the hyperbole has been used on, I know for the last 4 tests, they've had hyperbole problems. So you want to make sure to kill off that topic, and the best way to do that, make you a math concept and then look through old tests that have been tagged for hyperboles, so you can see how it's been applied, how it's been tested, and really just drive out any questions that you have. And ultimately, you get to the point that there's no more terminology that you have to learn. So it's just a step-by-step process to getting better and better.